Hello everyone, and welcome to TED Talks with me, Brianne Lithgow. Today we will be focusing on the global classroom. Growing up, I never thought twice about having come from two different cultures. Some of my values and traditions were different from those of my classmates, but for the most part I was just like them. I celebrated Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, Chinese New Year, the Mooncake Festival. Okay, the last two were a little different, but I never really viewed myself as different from anyone else. My mom, however, was never exactly like my friends' moms. I used to think that she was just really strict and protective, which, to some degree, she was. But as I got older, I began to realize that maybe it wasn't my mom's personality so much, but her upbringing that made her seem more strict. My mom, being born in Hong Kong, grew up in a completely different environment than I did. From stories she has told me in the past, the classroom she grew up in had a much stricter regime. Students would sit quietly at their desks for the majority of the day, taking notes and never behaving out of line. Classrooms just here in Canada have changed so much in the last decade, with the rise in technology and the push for things such as play-based learning, and even projects like Genius Hour. So as a future educator, this made me begin to wonder how the education of countries around the world differs, and as a result, what teaching strategies have been found to be the most efficient. As Canada continues to lead as one, if not the most multicultural country in the world, I think it is becoming increasingly important to focus on where our students are coming from and take a more in-depth look at classrooms around the world. Just a glimpse at photos of classrooms allow one to take into perspective just how much all these classrooms really vary. This is a classroom in Australia. As you can tell, it really doesn't look all that different from classrooms here in Canada. Students look engaged in their learning and aren't simply sitting at their desks. This classroom is in Kenya. It is quite different than our classrooms here in Canada, even just throughout the building and the basic features of the classroom itself. The students are seated at tables instead of separate desks, and there only appear to be two textbooks for multiple students. Even in one country alone, classrooms can vary so much. In urban China, students sit side by side with piles of papers on their desks. In comparison to rural China, where basic heat and electricity aren't even available, and in the wintertime, many students must wear winter coats inside their classroom. Lastly, let's take a look at this photo of a classroom in Brazil. Notice anything different? It's on water. So how do these photos represent the countries being displayed in them? Classrooms across China appear far from those here in Canada or North America even. Teachers are highly respected by all students and are not allowed to question what is being taught. Schools in China also put significantly less emphasis on participation in the classroom, whereas here participation is essential, and students are encouraged to voice their opinions. China's school system believes students should focus upon material taught in the classroom. Students are required to sit quietly while copying notes in order to regurgitate it onto exam papers reflected throughout good grades. They are often taught to refrain from proposing an opinion different from their instructors. Canadian schools, however, allow for more freedom, especially through concepts such as project-based learning. Students can pick any topic they are interested in and research it, gathering information they can share with their peers. This inquiry-based project allows students to take charge of their learning. Short answer and essay questions allow students to elaborate on their thinking, whereas China focuses their tests more on memory questions that do not allow much room for interpretation. Classrooms in Kenya differ greatly from Canadian classrooms, just in appearance alone. Instead of desks and chairs, students often sit on mats or long tables because they are more affordable and allow for more students to fit in the room. Children also do not start school until grade 1 in many areas, therefore making it more difficult for them to pay attention and learn when they have never been in a classroom environment. This also limits them to learning whatever their parents choose to teach them, or are able to teach them throughout their early years. Kenya's financial state makes it even more difficult for schools to get funding. Although there has been a great improvement over the last few years, in 2012, Kenya was 9th on the list for the most amount of children currently not attending school. As shown earlier, Australian classrooms resemble those in Canada both physically, but pedagogically as well. Similarly to Canadian classrooms, Australia focuses on hands-on learning and encouraging students to participate. The focus is more on students thinking critically instead of just taking the information they are being taught and accepting it without question. Students are able to develop strong communication skills and become aware of their surroundings, such as their society and environment. Focus is placed on preparing students for their future through teamwork, self-expression, and personal development, both in and out of the classroom. So how are these countries comparing in numbers? According to current statistics, Canada's literacy rates are at 99%, which is tied with Australia. China falls close at 95.1. It is important to reflect on the classrooms of other countries around the world and see how we, as future educators, can collaborate and learn from others to make our classrooms here in Canada more beneficial for our students. They are constantly changing, and their education must continue to fit their needs and support them in their learning. Thanks for watching.